Welcome to the Layman Seminary. I'm continuing my series on how to create my paper using my charting. And we're in 1 Corinthians 15, and my paper is due in about 4 hours. So shockingly, compared to the last video that I made, that it's actually still premiering right now, I've changed the structure once again. And so that made the paper shorter. So basically all I'm doing in this video right here that I have time to do is I'm going to go through, get it for flow, for organization, and then after that I'm going to stop the video, and then I'm going to go in and start working on formatting. And then once I have some of the formatting stuff done, I'll upload the video for that. But I don't think I can air it and all of that before I turn in my paper. It's just the clock's running out. So let's begin. Does 1 Corinthians 15 teach that believed in vain means not being truly saved? Is temporal perseverance evidence of eternal positional preservation? The Calvinist answers in the affirmative. He interprets this passage saying that if these professed Christians do not continue to hold fast to the gospel, they must have believed in vain. But if vain means what it meant in the Old Testament and other antecedent revelation, then the Calvinists should reevaluate how they read this passage. This paper will argue that to believe in vain means not to experience the implications of resurrection power and experiential sanctification, represented as ES. In a previous video, I talked about this chart, so I'll move forward. The purpose of 1 Corinthians 15 is to argue for the truth of the bodily resurrection to correct the Corinthian Christians, so they will experience resurrection power and be useful instead of vain. Paul is not countering their denial of Christ's resurrection. Instead, it addresses the believers' denial that they will rise bodily. Paul was pointing out how illogical that is. He cites what he first taught them, including the message about Christ's substitutionary death, burial, and resurrection. Paul focuses on Christ's resurrection appearances to remind his audience what they believed about Christ's resurrection so that they grasp the implications. There's places I need to insert some verses, but other than that, I think it's fine for now. Considering presuppositions of falsifiability. Is this a warning passage for the believer or someone who has never believed the gospel? Interpreters hold that a lack of perseverance shows a vain, non-genuine saving faith. When free grace proponents point out terms in the text to indicate that the audience is saved, such as brethren, the Calvinist argues that Paul uses a rhetorical preaching convention and knows that everybody's not saved. Paul addressed them as saved because they appear to be saved. This claim to phenomenological language appears to be a rescue device and is not falsifiable. This is ironic because Calvinists accuse free grace interpretations of Scripture of not being falsifiable. The Calvinists argue that the free grace proponent can move any passage to the experiential column to support a system. One counter to this charge is that Calvinists can ignore passages about experiential sanctification as well. Some scriptures seem to indicate that Paul viewed his audience as saved. Paul writes when divinely inspired, and Paul tells the Thessalonians they are positionally all sons of light. Paul can know that people's motives for preaching Christ. Also, the social contact of 1 Corinthians differs from a preacher talking to a mixed group. The book of Acts records at Crispus, the synagogue's leader, believed in the Lord, his house, and many other Corinthians. The Corinthians are positional saints. In 2 Corinthians, Paul mentions he's been in danger of false brethren. These brethren refer to infiltrators paid by Jews or Romans to inform or to set up Paul. Some may have been Jews. Still, Paul does not seem to let this threat affect how he talks to his audience. The Christians should accept the person in faith that says they believe the gospel. In 11:13 through 15, Paul also mentions false apostles and deceitful workers, but he never says they are not saved. This would have been the perfect opportunity to expose them as non-Christians. He could have said, do not listen to these false Christians. But again, the situation is different, so one should not necessarily read it back into 1 Corinthians. The free grace claim on 1 Corinthians 15. This passage is written to people who are already positionally saved, but saved in this passage refers to experiential temporal salvation. The gospel here refers to the message. I don't know why that's messing up. The gospel here refers to the message about how the Christian can have experiential sanctification by realizing the implications of ultimate salvation in the bodily resurrection, which means resurrection power moment by moment. The gospel is the way, instrument, or basis for this experiential sanctification. Gospel is a message or report that context determine whether it's good news. I'm scrapping this. I just don't have the time to. Since the context includes all three aspects of salvation, the context must include all three aspects of the gospel. Nevertheless, Paul wants them to see how that message has implications for experiential sanctification. So Paul focuses on the experiential message, but gets there by hammering the ultimate message of the resurrection. You drink a coffee. These Christians experientially stand in the message about Christ's resurrection, but doubt that they will be bodily resurrected. There's a lot of scriptures I got to insert in here, I see. The Calvinists argued that these professors are not even positionally saved if they don't temporarily persevere. Rather, they have been deceived into thinking they're standing because of spurious faith, temporary faith, or a non-efficacious gospel. But those who stress the professor not possess or paradigm typically claim one does not have positional salvation because their call to salvation was inadequate. The Calvinist sees apostasy or perpetual carnality as proof that one is not saved. Paul teaches about the implications related to the believer. They can hold fast to the resurrection implications or no longer continue in these implications. This conditional clause is an actual possibility, not a hypothetical condition. Holding fast to refers to something positionally saved people are doing, and what they're holding on to is the gospel. And I could say on is the experiential gospel, but okay. Concerning believed in vain. The antecedent revelation of Paul's writings of 1 Corinthians 15 include the Old Testament, James, Galatians, Matthew, Mark, and 1st, 2nd Thessalonians. The NASB translates four Greek words as vain: kenos, ekene, metain, and matthias. In 1 Corinthians 15, three of the four occur: ekene, 5:12, kenos, 5:10, 14:58, Matthias 15:17. Metain does not occur in 1 Corinthians 15. However, it is the adverb form of Matthias. Luonida 8954 shows that it shares the same domain as Eke. Concerning Eke, Calvinists typically take Eke to mean the Corinthians never believed the gospel because they assume that temporal perseverance is proof of positional salvation. But the Little Scott Jones lexicon shows that in classical Greek, Eke means something that is without plan, purpose, a random thing, or something without good cause. Eke only occurs in the Septuagint of Proverbs 28:25 for Gerah. While Gerah means to stir up strife, to go to court or battle, Eke means rashly in that passage. Eke then may refer to the manner by which one goes to court or war. The arrogant man stirs up strife. The arrogant man who stirs up strife is often rash. Arrogance allows a person not properly to evaluate their situation. He does not count the cost, and the result is a vain attempt. And then the cross-reference Luke. In contrast to this vain, arrogant, rash attitude is the one that trusts in the Lord, which is believing what the Lord says for positional and experiential sanctification. The person who trusts the Lord will prosper because he can have an assurance that he's not individually in covenant violation and under divine discipline. It gives him confidence for experiential sanctification. Okay. I don't think I need this part. The next verse contrasts the one who trusts in his own heart with the one who trusts in the Lord. Instead of being characterized as a prospering one, this person is a fool. Another contrast occurs between the fool that does not prosper and the wise one that will be delivered. Proverbs 28:25 has great implications for 1 Corinthians 15. And so you'll notice from my previous video that I did move I did several things. Number one, I took things out of a Septuagint order of discussion and explicit progressive revelation order of discussion. And instead, I discussed things in light of the Greek words that occur in 1 Corinthians 15. So, Eke, and then Kinos. I think we're still in the Eke situation. So this allowed me to streamline everything I said about Proverbs and as well as 1 Corinthians, the link there. So, all right. This passage sings the foolish one rise, just as Paul does in chapters 1 and 2. Also, the imagined interlocutor in diatribe is called a fool because it's foolish not to believe in the bodily resurrection of believers just because the wisdom of the world, popular Greek philosophy, teaches against it. I will run Grammarly in my other programs to smooth things out. I'm just trying to see the logic in the ideas. If they stop believing in the implication of the resurrection, they will not be delivered from lack and purpose and fulfillment and from God's divine discipline. Moulton Milligan quotes Wadowski using Latin terms to give the range of meaning of eke. The first term he uses audactor, which translates as rashly, confirming how eke was translated in Proverbs 28:25. The second term he gave was frustra, which translates vain or useless. Moulton Milligan also cites papyri, where the editor translated with the phrase temere, which, and I can't pronounce Latin right, so, which means the same thing Lewis Scott Jones gave for the range of meaning. Moulton and Milligan also gives heedlessness as an option, which means lack of attentiveness. Paul uses eke 3 times in Galatians 3. Paul asks Christians discerning the gospel if they suffer those things in vain after being positionally saved. They have begun their experiential sanctification by the Spirit, but were trying to make themselves mature by the works of the Mosaic law. They were cutting themselves off from the empowerment God provides for experiential sanctification. For them to be positionally saved and then experientially enslaved means they suffered in vain. Their previous sufferings were meaningless if they did not live by the grace faith principle again. Paul also uses the synonym kinos when he speaks about how he went up to Jerusalem with revelation from God and gave it privately to those with Christian reputations for fear that he had run in vain, meaning he didn't want his ministry to be viewed as meaningless by other Christian leaders. In 1 Thessalonians, Paul used kinos to refer to how their coming to them was not in vain. He wanted to discover whether they had been tempted by Satan and that they would have made their labors seem to be in vain. Paul wrote Romans from Corinth and used eke to describe how the government does not bear the sword in vain, meaning they use it. There is a similarity between Romans 6 and 1 Corinthians 15. Paul wants the Corinthians to see how the gospel they first believed in has implications for experiential sanctification. Therefore, Paul focuses on the experiential message, but gets there by hammering the ultimate message of the resurrection. In Romans 6, Paul mentions positional truth and the implications of the resurrection on experiential sanctification. He doesn't pick up with ultimate glorification in chapter 8. However, the concept of resurrection was introduced in 1:4 and alluded to in chapter 4. This passage is like 1 Corinthians 15, 1 and 2, because both refer to the responsibility of holding fast. Eke, this ties to something, I think in Colossians, and I got to remember where that is. So let me color that. Eke translates as without cause to describe the person that has no basis for the perception of self and their false teaching and practice. So I got to find out where the holding fast reference was. Concerning kenos. Kenos has semantic overlap with ekene in 1 Corinthians. Kenos is for several Hebrew words that may be behind the meaning of ekene. Hevel links useless to idolatry. The book of James was the first New Testament book. Even though, well, this doesn't, this has got to be moved somewhere. Okay. The book of James was the first New Testament book. Even though a Canaanite does not occur, it's not important anymore to make that argument because I moved things out of chronological ordering. Okay. So even though a Canaanite does not occur in the book, we're not talking about a Canaanite, so we don't need that part. The vocative of kenos is used in another diatribe passage. Proverbs 28, 25, and 26 that also mentions temporal deliverances in harmony with James, who does the same. Kenos is translated empty-handed to describe the result of not serving the Lord. Kenos describes the empty words of deceivers. Holding fast to the word of life. Translated empty-handed, empty. I'm just going to keep it. I could condense it even more, but holding fast. This might be the one I was talking about earlier. Holding fast to the word of life is so that on the day of Christ, Paul will have reason to glory since he did not run in vain, or toil in kenos. Run in vain or toil. I'm gonna put run or toil in vain. And just put kenos. All right. Okay, I'll fix that later. Kenos refers to the empty deception of people teaching falsely. Kenos refers to the futile things that people devise, and that is quoted in Psalms 2:1. In the Septuagint, kenos is for reek. All right. I'm not sure I like this. So because I moved things out of Septuagint to order, I'm seeing I got these hanging statements. So let me just try this. Hevel really to useless, okay. Okay. See. Oh boy. I'm having problems with formatting now. All right. So that's not going to work. All right. So let's just do this. Keep that one there. Then, well, it's KNS also. So, maybe I'll put no. I need to go back to this. Boy, I don't know what to do. Let's go with that. I probably need to highlight it more so that I'll come back to it. Okay, so all right. Concerning Matthias. Matthias also has semantic overlap with AK and Kenos in 1 Corinthians 15. Earlier it appeared in 1 Corinthians 3:10 in a quote from Psalms 94:11, which is 93:11 in the Septuagint. There, Matthias is for Kevel. Okay, so this one is also linked to Hevel. So I guess, okay. All right. So what I could do, all right. So okay. So there's Hevel and breadth and meaningless, and so I probably need to put all the Hevel stuff in one place. Okay. That's fine. I can do that. Today, people will say that was a waste of breath. Whether worship of idol is a waste of one's time, money, energy on something that does not exist. Matthias also first appears in the New Testament describing the worthless Christianity not applied in ministry. James used other expressions It's fine, but I don't need it. The worthless Christian not applied to ministry. James used other expressions to convey vanity. He calls experiential faith useless in helping others in need. It's also useless to help Christians escape temporal judgment for being no profit used to others. Got to insert those scriptures. Matthias also describes paganism, worth disputes, and feudal life. Matthias also has great implication for 1 Corinthians 15, 1 and 2. Okay. The reasons of the worldly wise are useless, even as the reasonings of the worldly wise are useless, even as their faith is worthless if Christ has not been resurrected. Galatians, which concerns similar issues as in 1 Corinthians. I'm just going to kill that. Well, no, I need to explain it. All right. I don't need this anymore. Okay. So now we got these Christians positionally believed at one point, if they do not continue, they would have believed in vain. Being in vain means they would not experience the resurrection power for the purpose of waiting on the glorified resurrected body. When one believes the supernatural propitiation was positioned, does vain here mean no purpose or no concern? Okay, so we got the idea of vain here, so I'm going to have to... Now, if KNS, AK, and Matthias synonyms, they must be synonyms. It means that... All right, so we already got rid of this. They are not deceived into thinking that they're standing. Okay. Now, so, wow, I went through that so fast. Now my paper's so short, 8 to 10 pages. 8 of 10 pages. So I don't know where the rest of the 10 are, but I'll put my page numbers in later. So I'm gonna have to... All right. I'm gonna have to make a conclusion. All right. So I'm gonna definitely have to write that conclusion. But I gotta get some things better going on with flow here. Okay, I like all of this. All right. I put this subordinate, okay, because it's not the main idea of the argument. So I need to move this to the holding fast section. Let's put this here. I still need to get the scripture what that is. All right. What did it say? Colossians 2:8. Okay. So one of the things that I noticed is I got some huge paragraphs here. That one's fine. That one's fine. Even that one's fine. That's fine. That's fine. What is this 6 for? Okay. All right. That's fine. That's fine. Concerned and believed in vain. Free grace claim on 1 Corinthians. Concerned and believed in vain. So this would actually be not it would be italicized. But that don't look good. Hmm. Okay. I don't know. The free grace view believed in vain. Maybe that word. I don't know. Oh, we got a problem here. Okay, so that's whenever I did the widow thing, the orphan. Okay, that fixed it. All right. So concerning AK, got that. All of this is about AK. That looks like a pretty long paragraph. It'd be all right if it. Okay. If there's a new paragraph, that's fine. Much in the middle again, new paragraph. Okay, Galatians. Whoa. This is let's make the new paragraph there. Concerning Kanos. Okay. Matthias, yeah. New paragraph. This feels like it's out of place. All right. There's just some implication stuff that well, we need to do something in this video. So let's run Grammarly. No, because it's a quote. That's why I'm not changing it. Passive voice. Means they are not, should we say, they do not have positional salvation. Let's go with that. And no, and other antecedent. It's not Revelations. I guess it would be. I was talking about the concept though. Just capitalize it for now. Just do all caps. So yeah, Grammarly's taking some things out. Don't. So this would be do not have positional salvation. If instead, okay. I like manner rather than the how. Possibly wordy sentence. Okay. It's not like I'm worried about I'm gonna skip the wordy part. I could fix the wordy stuff later. The reason being is because the word rake would get a lot of that. Hard to read sentence. Wow. That whole section needs work according to them. We can deal with that later. I'll fix the some of the passive voice stuff in a little bit too. It's interesting that the words useless, futile, they're all coming up. The synonyms for them. Okay, so we did that one. Now let's do the internal review. The first time you click it, if you have a program, and nothing will come up, so you got to click it again. All right, we got spelling issues. That's 1 Corinthians. Assuming argument, conciseness. Yeah, they don't like the word manner. Grammar, not wrong word. Okay. What happened here? All right, so now let's run word rake. Looks like I'm gonna disagree with most of the decisions that word rake suggestion. And that's fine because I got plenty of room. All right, so they suggested 15 things. They always want to get rid of the that's, and I understand that, but we're gonna keep them. I'm gonna go ahead and go with that. All right. They don't like the word aspect. Reject, reject, reject. They refer to the way one goes in manners better. Reject. Reject. Okay. Well, guys, I'm gonna have to force myself to write a conclusion. And the easiest way to write a conclusion is to restate your claim in the very beginning. So what I'll do is I'll just copy this, move this down here. I don't need footnotes. All right. So I might just describe what I know. 1 Corinthians 15 includes several includes how many synonyms? Is it 3? 3. So you could say something like this. The semantic overlap that exists between these Greek words, and I'll insert them. The semantic overlap that exists between these Greek words has been key to discovering the richness of the Hebrew words that translate these terms in the Septuagint. The semantic overlap between these Greek words has been key to discovering the richest Hebrew words translated these terms inside. These interpretive options have been supported by what? Wow. All right. These interpretive options should cause the Calvinists to question, to reconsider their assumption that pain means the people did not possess positional salvation. Okay. The free grace interpretation is a viable alternative to their other assumption that this passage teaches temporal perseverance as proof of positional salvation. All right. Vain refers to hey, that wasn't supposed to be there. Instead, vain refers to missing the implications of resurrection power in experiential sanctification. The free grace interpretation is a viable alternative to Calvinistic assumption that this passage teaches was proof of positional salvation. All right, well, I'm not totally happy with that. But I don't have enough. I don't have much time. I'm getting on close to having 3 hours, so I'm going to cut this video, force myself to get into the formatting, and start making those final changes. Guys, if you've been blessed by this video and this process, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, give us a thumbs up, share it for the algorithm and for other people that would benefit. If you feel blessed, you can donate. The PayPal link is underneath the about section and underneath most videos. And please keep this ministry in prayer. And specifically, if you're watching this before I turn my paper in, please keep this process in prayer. God bless.